What's up, Junkie Nation? Gorgeous George and Goes reporting for duty here. Get to talk to one of our favorites, Brandon Royval. He's coming off a huge win out in Mexico City over Brandon Moreno. Might have cemented himself a title shot. We'll talk about that. Also joined by his dog, Oso. How old is Oso, Brandon?
Oso is like 1 in 3 months.
He's combo like is he a Labradoodle or
Yeah,
like
he's a mini Labradoodle, so he's not going to get too big.
Dude, yeah, we've seen him before. He's cool. For those that are tripping, he's got the AC on. He just went for a walk, so we got a responsible dog owner here with us. What's going on though with the hairnet? You got a shift to put in at Chipotle or something, or what?
I woke up and threw it on, and I just mistimed like between this meeting and the podcast.
You sure you're not working the grill somewhere, making some extra money at some coffee shop?
Yeah, exactly. But I'm trying to make my hair go backwards. Honestly, it's been an adventure. I have to wear the hairnet kind of all the time. So yeah, you guys are witnessing that. But I'm trying to cement my Chicano legacy out here in Colorado.
Do you have some Hispanic blood in you?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay, wasn't sure. Royval sounds white, I guess, but
third generation, right?
Is it on your mom's side or what?
I wonder what that is. Like, I don't know where my last name comes from, and like it makes zero sense to me.
The Chicano side's on your dad's side?
Both sides.
Both sides.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
What was I gonna say? Yeah. But my ancestry is like, comes from like Native American roots and like Spain, so virtually Mexican at that point.
Yeah. All right. So the fans, what was it like in Mexico? Were you like enemy 101, or was there some love?
No, I got a lot of love out there, honestly. I feel like there's a lot of people that were like maybe not cheering for me, but at least had respect for me. So anytime I like left the hotel or when I would go into the hotel lobby, I was taking pictures, shaking hands, all the above along the way. So it wasn't like I was like worried too much or anything like that.
Do you speak Spanish?
No, I don't.
No? Okay. All right. Well, hey, what was it like hearing the scorecards and seeing the scorecards? And have you rewatched the fight? I mean, it was literally a landmine looking at the first 3 rounds. I think the last 2 rounds were consistent with the way the judges scored it, but otherwise it was all over the place. Were you tripping at the end when they were calling out the names?
Yeah, and then like even looking at the scorecards now, some of it doesn't make sense to me, because I think the only like real controversial round was the second round. The first round was weird, but I'd give it to him. The second round, I still think I won just based off of like attacking. I feel like maybe people gave it to him because of takedown, but it's just like when you get the takedown, in my opinion, or like how I score fights, is like you need to do something with it. And if you're defending submissions off the takedown, like I just score it. But the second round was a controversial one. The weird one for me is that nobody scored me the 5th round except for everybody else in the goddamn world besides the judges. But the 5th round is like, I thought I won that too. The only thing he did is he landed like maybe a couple punches, but then he was like holding on. And that's where like, I guess you can maybe give it to him a little bit. But that being said, is like, as far as the 5th round goes, I think anybody else besides the judges scored it for me. So that was a weird one for me too. And then the 49-46 made zero sense to me.
Mm-hmm. Well, you got the job done. Your hand did get raised, so it worked out for you. And you recently fought him. Yeah. But at the same time, this isn't a deep division. There's also a few injuries. There's a few vets that have dropped some fights. So there's a case for you to be made to fight again, especially in Brazil, because you said you can turn it around and make 301. Is that still the case? Is your body feeling good?
Yeah. I'm getting through some injuries, but like I have plenty of time to go get ready for 301, especially that I'm like in great shape. I've been back-to-back fights, and it's just like I've never really left that like 25-minute ready to get out of fight shape. So yeah, I'll be back in the gym really soon. But by 301, I'll be healthy and ready to go and be perfectly in shape to go win a belt. And yeah, I fought I'm his most recent fight, and same thing with Brandon Moreno too. It's like Brandon Moreno was his most recent fight before then, and like we were kind of in the same situation. You know what I'm saying? So, but I've made improvements quick, and it's just like Brandon Moreno did take me down twice in that fight. For the most part, he couldn't get me down. My wrestling defense was on point. I got right back up. I attacked submissions. I did everything that I wanted kind of show that I did wrong in that Pantoja fight. Was like, I'm not getting held down. I'm gonna get up every time, and I'm gonna threaten submissions the whole entire time if I'm not on my way up.
Is there a drawback to getting passed over? I mean, they were saying if Mokaev maybe had an emphatic win, he could go and do it. He hasn't faced the champion; he's undefeated. So, is there a drawback? And here's why I say that. You know, obviously, if you want to fight for the title, you obviously should campaign for it. I get it, but I think back to DDP, right? He beats Whitaker, and then they go, okay, so it's you and Izzy in September. Kind of a quick timeline, like similar to what you're facing. And he goes, nah, I'm good. And so he sits back, lets Strickland beat Izzy, which I don't know if he thought that would happen or not. And then he sits back, bides his time, and then perfect scenario, you know, he fights in Toronto, healthy, wins the title. So being patient worked out. Now, Dana White will often say, if you get passed over, things might not work out for you. And that has happened as well. So if you had a time to really calmly assess the situation and not rush into anything, you know, like because these obviously are grueling training camps. And then you did go 25 at fucking 10,000 feet altitude, which is very impressive. So have you thought about that scenario?
I have, and it's just like I don't really know if I want to sit out really either. It's just like I want to fight. I'm in a good situation right now where I can make a lot of money this year. If I could fight for a belt, that would be the most ideal situation. It's just like I, I don't really know who else they're gonna give it to. So in that situation, just like if they give it to me, I'm gonna be ready for that fight no matter what, and I'll take that fight. But maybe like not fighting in 2 months. 2 months seems really really soon. Like 3 months, 4 months, perfect. But I don't want to wait around. I feel like I can pick up a role right now. I feel like I can clear the division, at least to a certain degree. Like I was looking over the top five. I beat everybody in the top five except for Amir Albazi, and that's the only person I haven't faced. And other than that, I beat every single person besides Amir Albazi in the top five. So it's like I feel like I'm doing a good job clearing out the division. From one side, it's like I just have to be undeniable to win this belt and to get my situation. And it's like I'll defend my number against anybody in this world. Any of these flyweights, I believe I could beat. But whatever's gonna give me the title the quickest is what I'm looking for.
So if they did something where they said, well, all right, because I think Mokaev kind of presented that, right? Like, what if we fight and then whoever fights or whoever wins that goes on and fights for the title? Would you even be willing to do something like that? And if not, do you feel like eventually, because of the way the division is, you feel like you're just going to end up fighting them anyway at some point?
Yeah, for sure. Me and that kid are definitely gonna fight at some point. I feel like him pressing really hard for a fight with me right now is a dumb idea because it's like if you look at the division, it's either me or him getting the title shot. It's like, bro, campaign for Pantoja. That would be the smart move, you know, is campaign for Pantoja. That's what I'm trying to do. Is just I want the Pantoja fight. The Mokaev fight will happen eventually, but it's just like I want the Pantoja fight. I'll be ready by 301. I can make that quick of a turnaround, and I'm confident I'll beat Pantoja more than anything. So it's just like that in my head. It's just I want Pantoja. My eyes are on Pantoja. My eyes are always going to be in front of me, and that's what I want. I want to be a champion. I want to win the belt. I would love to win the belt in Brazil. I feel like that these are all dreams come true, you know, and those are what I want. And that's like, I don't really see another athlete besides possibly me or Mokaev that are going to be ready for that fight. So it's just like, that's the fight I want. That's the fight I'm aiming for. Pantoja is going to be the one that I'm going to be calling out every second of the every chance I get. Any platform I have, I want Pantoja. I want Pantoja. I want the number one spot. I want to be the champion, and from there on out, I'll fight any of these dudes. I'll fight whoever's next, and that's going to be my mentality for the rest of it. It's just like ever since I've been to the UFC, I've had some of the hardest fights. I've had some of the hardest fighters, some of the best fighters in the world, you know. And once again, you look at the whole top five. I beat every single one of them except for Amir Albazi. And Amir Albazi was a person that I'm trying to fight, you know? So it's just like, I'm not ducking from any of these top fighters in the world. I just want to cement my legacy of being one of those dudes who's fighting his ass off every chance he gets and taking all the best fighters and best options in the world. and that's another thing with the whole Moreno thing. And that's like what I was thinking in my head too, is just like, this is a number 1 ranked fighter. This is a former champion, and I'm going to take it on short notice in his hometown and win this fight. And that's to cement my legacy. That's to be undeniable, you know. And sure, it's a big risk, but it's a big reward too. Now I have a number 1 next to my name, and I have a little bit of a leveraging. And anybody after they win is saying my name right now. It's Mokaev, all that stuff, and it's just like, that's all really good stuff. Is I'm being talked about. You know what I'm saying? And that's what I need.
Could you even do that and turn it around and maybe do Noche UFC here at the
Oh,
Sphere? That seems like be
that would be the
awesome,
coolest
right?
thing ever, man. That would be the coolest thing ever. And like I said, I'm not trying to be one of those guys that like win a belt and then I take 6 months. I'm trying to make a lot of money this year. I'm trying to make a lot of money throughout this rest of my UFC career. And it's like, I'm not going to ever sit back. That would be the dopest thing, to fight in the Sphere. To fight in any of these like big cards is something that I want, you know, and it's going to help me. It's going to boost my notoriety. It's going to do all that stuff. I fight fun. Like, I have fun fights, you know what I'm saying? And it's like, all this is going to cement my legacy in a good way. And to fight Pantoja and beat him in Brazil would be amazing. And then to go fight at that Sphere would be even doper. Like, those all be really cool ideals.
Brandon, so I'll put a couple cards out on the table here for people who don't know. We've been interviewing you for a very long time. Brandon Moreno lives like 10 minutes from us, so we've always talked to him as well. The night of the fight, as we're watching all this play out, you're right, we were kind of confused with scores too. At some point we thought, are we not watching this properly or what? Because when the last horn sounded, we just felt like there wasn't even really a doubt if Moreno had won the fight. It's nothing against him, it just felt like you just did more than him. But I want to ask how you got to that, because the first thing people are going to say is, hey, it looked like Brandon had an off night. And maybe he could have had a little bit of that, but to me, it felt like you just didn't give him room to breathe, to do anything. I hate to say, I was almost doubting you at the beginning, because I was like, he can't keep that pace up, for 5 rounds. And you did it. You just kept going. Like, what is it that changed? What was it strategy wise? What is it that you saw that you were able to put on that, for me, was almost a perfect performance, man? And you were kind of banged up in the fight.
Yeah. I feel like, I've been hearing that a lot too. And I don't necessarily know what his strategy is, but I know what my strategy was going into that fight. And my strategy was to stay super long, kick, and then keep a distance, where anytime Brandon Moreno threw, he would almost have to overcommit. And that's exactly what was happening. Is just I stood super long. I stood kind of out of, like, he was throwing jabs or like doing anything but committing fully to his strikes. He was not gonna land on me. And that's what you see. Like that's where like every punch he landed was him throwing 100%, moving out of position and kind of putting himself in bad positions. And I needed that because, one, I'm one of the longer guys in the division. I can fight from a distance, and two, I need to stop these takedowns, and I need distance on that too. So it's just two of those things where I'm like, I need to fight Brandon Moreno long. I need to fight him. I need to keep pressure on him for sure, but I need to fight him long and be smart about it. And I feel like those first 2 rounds, he's just trying to cover distance, and I could be wrong. Maybe something was off with him or wrong that night. But in my opinion, it's like, I'm bigger. I'm longer. I could fight longer. I have longer legs. It's like, from then that looked like a guy that was trying to cover distance, and he had to overcommit to all of his strikes, and it looked sloppy and it didn't look good. But it's also just like, I'm long and I fight long, and I could fight long. So there's moments where he starts shouting up, then I can close distance a little better. But for the most part, I was just trying to stay out of his range and stay out of boxing range. And anytime he came in, he had to overcommit, and that was literally our game plan going into it. It's just, I want to make Brandon Moreno miss big. I want him to overcommit, and then I wanted to capitalize once he overcommitted. And I still was getting hit by some of the shots that he was throwing, but that being said, is everything he did was a lot of overcommitment, and it looks sloppy to a degree, but it's also just like, I'm long, I'm a real long fighter.
So those adjustments that you were able to make for that fight, is it safe to say that you've already kind of recalculated what you would do against Pantoja? Do you feel like you've already addressed all that in your head, what needs to be corrected, and kind of the same way you had the feeling going into the Moreno fight?
Yeah, and I know it probably sounds insane to anybody who's been, keeping up with Myron and Pantoja's career, but it's just like, I think I could beat that dude tomorrow. Like, in my head, I know I could beat that guy. I know he's an amazing fighter, an amazing champion, and like I'm a huge fan of his style. But I know I could beat that dude tomorrow. Like, I know I could beat him within 8 weeks. I know I could beat him in 7 weeks or whatever it is. UFC 301, I know I can come up with a game plan that'll beat him. And, I made some quick adjustments after the Pantoja fight for sure. But maybe I had to just adjust my mental state on, like, with Pantoja, I was so afraid to get my back taken. I wasn't taking risk. I was doing a lot of stuff that was more unlike me, where I was just kind of laying off the gas, not taking risk, and just trying to play it as it goes. And that was a big mistake on my behalf, where I felt like Pantoja did a lot of great adjustments in that fight.
Have you spoken to the UFC? Have they given you any inclination that you're in the pole position, for example, or that they were waiting on the Mokaev fight? Have you heard anything like that tells you what might be next?
No, not at all. I have no clue what's about to happen. I knew I put myself in a good position by winning that Moreno fight and taking that fight with Moreno.
Yeah, for sure.
But other than that, it's like I don't know. I don't know what's about to happen at all, and I don't know who they even have in mind, or if Horiguchi's gonna come, or any of those stuff. So I really have no clue. But I feel like I put myself in one of the best positions in the division as far as making that.
Is that a rumor you've heard, that Horiguchi might be coming?
That's a rumor I heard. I don't know if there's any truth to that. I just keep seeing it.
That's interesting. Yeah, he was dope in the UFC. I think he was like 7-1. His only loss was to Johnson. Then outside the UFC, he won some belts. So he's legit. I like him.
Yeah, he's one of my favorites to watch. It sucks he's going back to flyweight and you have to fight him, but as far as watching him at 35 and then watching him outside the UFC, it's been some cool stuff. He's done a lot of really good things, and I feel like he'd be such a great addition to the UFC.
Mm-hmm. Well, I'm glad you cleared that up, because a lot of people will say, hey, you just fought. Pantoja won a lot of rounds against you. But you're saying the tweaks are there, the adjustments are there. This can be a competitive fight, and you can do it in 2 months. We don't question the cardio, because that was beastly what you did. I'm wrong. It's about 7,800 feet altitude, not 10,000, but certainly more than a mile high, which is where you train. Still incredible, that pace that you put on.
And that's like another thing too, is I feel like with these fights, with the Pantoja fight and now the Moreno fight, it's like I feel like I could have pushed it even harder. Like I definitely could have pushed the pace a little harder. And you get these 25-minute fights and you realize you're like, okay, this isn't even bad, and it's like I could do it in training camp, but like you'll never know in a fight, because fights are different, man. I see people who have good cardio gas out in the first round, and fights are a lot different. But now it's like I know I can even push the pace harder than that Moreno fight, and that's what I'm aiming to do every fight now.
Maybe you can answer this, but Pantoja looks like he gasses, but somehow that dude digs deep and will squeeze out a round when you don't think he can. It looks like he's fading, and it looks like with a couple of shots, the exhaustion along with getting hit cleanly, like he could go out. How does this guy do it, man? I got to give him his due.
Yeah, me too, man. There was like a video clip I seen of me kneeing him flush, like he changed levels. I threw a knee up the middle. He eats it on the chin and just ran through a takedown. I'm like, this guy is literally the Terminator. Pantoja's the Terminator for sure. I feel like he's earned that nickname in the division. I don't even what I'm saying? Like, I don't even know anybody close. It's just like that fool can absorb shots and then walk through them. And including with the whole cardio things, like that guy can push through adversity, and it's like that's what makes him a champion. That's what makes him great, and that's what makes him one of my favorite fighters in the flyweight division. It's just like I felt like he fought me a little boring, but I think that's just the nature of also him giving me respect on who I am too, of just nullifying and playing the positions really smart. But as far as any other fight, Pantoja had to be one of my favorite fighters to watch. He's so entertaining. He has such a killer instinct. He can knock people out. He can submit people, and it's just yeah, that guy's dope. But fuck him. Not just playing.
Do your coaches want to fly to Brazil and spoil the party? Does your team get off on enemy territory, kind of isolating yourself? There's no family, no friends. You just go to work, kind of like Rocky IV theme.
Yeah. I feel like to a degree, yeah. I mean, if they give us the fight, they have no choice. But I feel like a lot of what we were saying in the back room and what we were saying all week is just silencing a crowd, and
right.
And that's just kind of the goal with any of these fights where you're in enemy's territory. Is just even with the Moreno fight, it's like I wasn't really getting booed after the decision was there. It was just more silence than anything. And it's like I want to silence the crowd. I wanted to be like, all right, well, you can't say shit about that one. You know what I'm saying? And I feel like that's the goal.
Incredible what you did. And yeah, you've owned most of that division. Pantoja's got the 2. Moreno could have been 2 up, but you nullified that. You would have been in a tough spot on it, if I'm being honest with you. But
yeah, 100%.
you're totally out of that.
Walking out knowing that you're like, damn, fuck, did I do everything right? Was this a fucking dumb decision? That's what I was thinking on the walkout. I was like, I looked at my coaches and I'm like, was this a dumb decision? Should I have waited, or like, you know what I'm saying? But
yeah,
whatever.
no, man, seriously, that was gutsy, ballsy, everything. And now a lot of us are willing to watch a 3rd fight, even though it recently happened. Yeah. So whatever it plays out, I have a feeling you're fighting for a title in 2024. If it can happen early for you and you're down, body can sustain all that, then go for it. Thank you, Brandon, for the time today. It was cool to see you and Oso again. And seriously, your story's incredible, man. Like I say, just every time you've kind of gotten hit, by dropping a fight, you come back with a streak and you dig deep. That's pretty cool to see.
Yeah, man. I feel like that's been my story. So it makes sense for me winning a bout off of a losing a belt title shot. I feel like that's what happened with me in the LFA too. Is I took I took a title shot against Casey McKinney. I lost. I won a fight, won a big fight off a guy that just got cut from the UFC, and once I won that fight, they put me back in for title contention. Then I go win the LFA belt and get signed to the UFC. So it's just like, I feel like this kind of fits my legacy a little bit.
Yeah. Awesome, man. Well, thanks again for the time, and we'll talk to you soon.
All right, you too. Have a good day.